Righto everyone, it's 4 o'clock. I'd like to welcome you to this meeting of the Community Recreation Committee. Are there any apologies? There be none. Any conflicts of interest? All very quiet.
We're still trying to find the page.
We'll move on to item 3, confirmation of minutes.
Seconded.
Moved by Mayor, seconded by Councillor Blackie. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. 3.1a, confirm the minutes of the August meeting. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Any matters arising from the minutes? I had one matter I'll just update you with. I asked Chris where the croquet club report was at. That's regarding the loan that we discussed. I think that was the indication at the last meeting. That's going to come to the next meeting. Any other matters?
Well, just relating to that, I was
Here we go.
asked to a meeting with the Table Bowls group, who are neighbours who have some views as well, so we're trying to connect about that, so related.
Right, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. We'll move on. There are no deputations. We'll come to the first report. 6.1. Are you speaking to that, Tessa? Right, thank you, Tessa.
Thank you. Right on? Now I am. So this report seeks approval for a variation to the purpose of the funding that we have currently granted to North Canterbury Neighbourhood Support. You will recall that into what is the volume down on the side? Okay, how's that? That better? Yep. Okay. So this report seeks approval for the variation to the purpose of the $3,200 per year, excluding GST, that we grant to North Canterbury Neighbourhood Support. And it also provides an overview of a new strategic direction for North Canterbury Neighbourhood Support and how these funds might be utilised in line with that. The report also acknowledges the value of neighbourhood park barbecues as a means for council staff and elected members to effectively engage with the community, and also for the green space team to be able to get some good formative information around the potential redevelopment of its places and spaces. And the report proposes that the neighbourhood barbecues continue, but perhaps with more of a focus on the current delivery mode via the community team and green space teams. Just to give you a little bit of context, we have supported North Canterbury Neighbourhood Support for at least 15 years. Councillor Bryan will have a better understanding of me, but my understanding is that we have supported him for the past 15 to 20 years with funding to deliver neighbourhood connection, and over that period Neighbourhood Support has been through a series of changes as our community has changed. So you may remember that originally it was set up as a keeping your street safe, just making sure that your residents weren't being burgled, that people were being looked after, and there was a really strong emphasis on the street group model. And at that time, the funding that we gave them was just to encourage neighbourhood for one big event. They've eventually died out. Following the earthquakes, North Canterbury Neighbourhood Support went through something of a hiatus with that street-led model and started to focus on building up a database that would see people able to access information in emergencies. Over the period in which we diverted the funding, the first year went pretty well, the second year not so well, and North Canterbury Neighbourhood Support suffered with a few gaps in staffing and resourcing, and it's fair to say that they needed some support to regroup and get themselves back together. So community team, community development staff have done quite a bit of work with North Canterbury Neighbourhood Support over the last 12 months and help them to increase the capability of their governance group, to develop a strategy that will see them starting to create meaningful neighbourhood connection across the district and to look at how they might implement that strategy. Alongside that, they have considered what's the most successful avenue for making sure that there is connection at neighbourhood level, and are looking to return to that street group model and looking at working with individual communities as to how they can support their more vulnerable residents, identify which resources can be shared, and create a really good sense of community. So, in light of all of that, we consider that the funds allocated to North Canterbury Neighbourhood Support would be best used to progress some of the projects associated with the return to that model, and that delivery of the barbecues continues to be in line with business as usual for the green space and community teams, and as has been the case, delivered out of a share of the costs between those two teams. We feel that in terms of neighbourhood connection across the district, this is going to give much better outcomes for our communities and result in more connected neighbourhoods, particularly in those developing communities and in some of our rural communities. I will take the report as read, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tessa. Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Tessa, and thank you for the report and the explanation. Have you had a conversation with North Canterbury Neighbourhood Support about undertaking this with Sarah, and if yes, what was the response?
Yes, so that conversation was driven by North Canterbury Neighbourhood Support. You'll be aware that they engaged an interim manager in February, March of this year, and she's been very much involved in looking at that new strategic approach. And it was suggested, so she has given me an overview of what they're proposing, and I'm very much in line with the thinking that this is better use of their allocated funding.
So you talked with Sarah Saunders?
Yes, I have.
Thank you. Thanks.
I could also say that Councillor Atkinson and myself met with Sarah Saunders yesterday and had a discussion. The good news is that funding for her position has been extended for 12 months. So that's good news. Councillor Barney.
Yes, I can also say I've also met with Sarah as well.
My question is, have you seen recently whether their numbers have been increasing through the Gets Ready promotion campaign?
Yes. So you will see detail in the report, and I need to find the appropriate section, but they have seen quite a significant increase over the last 6 months, and that's directly as a result of their having more capacity. And they are engaging directly with people who are identified through Gets Ready to try and re-establish those neighbourhood groups.
So in the latest flood response, some residents obviously received emails from them which were quite pertinent. Have you had any other feedback from the community about how Pets Ready is working to combine with our civil defence initiatives?
No.
Councillor Bryan?
So just touching on that civil defence aspect, I see that they're looking to make a submission to next year's APAC. Is work going to be developed in a way that it could be linked with civil defence? That was certainly a suggestion I made to the Civil Constable Law.
Yes, there is already, so Civil Defence already have a memorandum of understanding with neighbourhood support, and the Gets Ready tool is used in emergencies. So there are sort of ongoing discussions about how there can be, more value out of that. I guess in terms of this report, our focus would be on the role that neighbourhood support should have in neighbourhood connection in peacetime as well.
Mr. Chair.
Right, no further questions? Right, we have a mover, Mr. Leon, a seconder. Put the post by Councillor Blakey. Sorry. Mr. Mayor.
I too have met with Sarah, so we've all had joint meetings with her lately, so hence why my question, because I was just interested to make sure that she was, with Sarah and neighbourhood support were aligned, so thanks for the clarity on that. I'm very encouraged with where neighbourhood support are going. Sarah Saunders is known to all of us, and I'm sure I've worked with her with Waitara PHO, and she's worked with a number of organisations I'm associated with, and she is a great find for neighbourhood support, very well connected. It's a great organisation with really good objectives, and I'm really pleased that they are, I think, turning themselves around. It's not that they were not functional, but there were obviously some areas they needed to improve on, and I think the appointment of Sarah and also the continuing funding that well supported here. A number of our community board members are associated, which is really good, so they're well networked in the community. I was connected in with a conversation with Brennan post the floods with Sarah and some of the members, and they certainly are going to be putting in a bid. Where they will land in that and the alignment and what we are in a position to support will be a matter obviously we'll need to consider, but certainly this step here, if they're in support of that, that's a great move and furthers their objectives, which I'm in full support of.
Thank you. Councillor Blakey?
Yeah, I'd just echo the Mayor's comments. Sarah's a great asset.
Councillor Doody, by Councillor Barney.
Thank you. Having been involved with neighbourhood support for the past 6 years and stepped aside this last term, I'm really pleased to see that they are moving forward. Quite truthfully, I really would like neighbourhood support to, and the council really to go down like it has done at Selwyn, but I'm probably asking a tall order that delivers a good partnership. But it would be good if we eventually do get down to that level and give them the full support they need.
Thank you. Councillor Barney?
Yes, like others, I've been involved in neighbourhood support as a street coordinator and all sorts of things along the way as well. And I've seen a real change in their focus and their strategic approach in the recent times. It's certainly been shown to be beneficial in emergencies, and they are now linking in properly with civil defence, which may not have happened in the past. I think there's a great deal of hope. The one thing I would like to comment on, as Councillor Doody said, is that most other councils do fund their neighbourhood support groups. We've had some struggles with that because they haven't been able to show value to the community at the time. I think, however, with the new strategic direction, that might be something we could reconsider going forward. What we need to see is results. We need to see how it's been useful to the community, and we need to get that community feedback. And even in the small amount of change that's gone on in the last 6 months, I've certainly seen a lot more positive feedback about neighbourhood support and the role it can play in linking communities. I also agree with the diversion of the money here, even though I have no vote, because obviously at the moment we can't really do street barbecues under a level 2 COVID situation, and we're not sure how long that's going to last. It becomes a bit problematic mixing people from different areas. So I'm very, very supportive of this, and I hope that the committee will approve it.
Thank you. Sarah confirmed that neighbourhood support had no desire to run street-type barbecues. It's not part of their plan, if you like. They're still looking at connecting communities by a different way through the street model. They do have a crossover, of course, with civil defence through the Get Ready program. So they sort of fit in the middle between community and civil defence, really. So it is very worthwhile, and we have every confidence in their manager, Sarah Saunders, who is noted for actually getting outcomes. So I think they'll make good progress under her guidance. So the 3,200 will be, I'm sure, put to good purposes, but not in the physical barbecue sense. Right, Councillor Mearns.
I'd just like to add to those comments that I too am pleased to see the strides that neighbourhood support is making since Sarah got on board, and the progress that they're making with neighbourhood support. I also believe that it is something that we as a council should be in behind them doing, because it is quite an important civil defence function. As my work with the lifestyle block side of things has also highlighted. I think a connected community is a resilient community, and that's what we need, is resilient communities, and that's what they help deliver. But I'm also very happy to see that we do still, COVID permitting, have the barbecues on the table, because whilst they may sort of waver as to their effectiveness in some of the urban areas, I know out in our area they are very well attended and quite cherished, actually, and we don't have a lot of opportunity as a rural community to get together and come together as a community and do things like that. So it's really good if those things are still facilitated, because it gives us an excuse to have something other than our virtual town square. So I'm very pleased with the report and absolutely support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, do you want to exercise your right?
It's all been very well said.
I did remember.
Thank you.
Right. The motion's been moved and seconded. 6.1A2G. I'll now put the motion. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. 6.2, we're still with you, Tessa, the year in review. As Chris and I commented last week, I think. It doesn't seem very long since the last report. So, over to you, Tessa.
Yes, it's fair to say that this year has flown. So this report provides an overview of the Community Team's Year in Review report, and that details our activity in 4 key areas. So community development, community safety, youth development and civil defence, welfare response and recovery. It details the collaborative, community-led approach applied to the work of the community team in response to community team identified need and priority. And results are measured both qualitatively against some of the category wellbeing index measures, population level, and qualitatively in the results-based accountability framework. Do we know whether anyone is better off? I would particularly like to highlight the role that this work plays in enhancing the physical, mental and social wellbeing of our communities. And Councillor Mearns talked about the importance of having resilient communities, and if they're well connected and supported, it's really easy for us to have positive social outcomes for our residents. This work aligns directly with 8 of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals around equality, poverty and hunger, health and well-being, safety, sustainability and community education. It also serves as a mechanism for delivery of 10 of Council's community outcomes. Alongside this, I particularly would like to highlight the role of the community team in social recovery from civil defence emergencies. When we first decided to become the Civil Defence EOC Welfare Team, it was an annual Pandora exercise, and then we got back to our day jobs. And in recent years, this work has made up quite a significant proportion of the work of the community team. And some really exciting projects have come out of social recovery from COVID-19, from earthquakes and so forth. I'd also like to highlight the pastoral support, that this work sits outside business as usual. We are pretty much an open door team, but the pastoral support is important because it sees some of our more vulnerable residents kept safe and linked into community supports. And if you think about the safety and well-being of the wider community, that's really important. I'll take the report as read and happy to answer any questions.
Right, are there any questions? None at the moment. I'd like to congratulate you on your report, Tessa. You and the community team are doing awesome work, and I think we're all very pleased and proud of the work that you do. And that's showing in the statistics and fingers in the pies that you actually managed to access. So it's a very good report. Right, well, if there are no questions, must be a very comprehensive report, Tessa. Is there a mover? I'll move the report. A seconder? Got a tie over here. Councillor Doody. Right. I've already spoken and given my thoughts on the report. It's an excellent report, and the community team are doing excellent work. Councillor Doody, would you like to comment?
Just thank you very much. It's a well-detailed report and very much appreciate just showing exactly the work that your staff are doing and you and your staff are doing. It's very good indeed. Thank you.
Mr Mayor?
I think Tessa summarised it very well in your introductory remarks, Mr Chair, in a year like no other, really, that we've had. So, and the one thing that I take is that I think we're really fortunate to have a staff in our community team, particularly staff right across our organisation, that are very connected and caring of individuals who need support, and that through difficult times, and not just through difficult times, through every time really. And that's the thing that I think that this team, your team that you need, Tessa, really do make a difference. Times of civil defence emergencies, with other matters, with floods, that really caring side, connecting with the people that are vulnerable, who had some really trying times. And I know I was able to reach out and you were supporting them, finding them, Port Louise, you name it. You were there and your team were there making sure that they were cared for. I'm proud of what you and the team do. You're exemplary, and you're an exemplary leader. And thank you for everything that you and your team do.
You wish to speak? Councillor Mills?
We're going without saying something about it. Having had the pleasure of being involved in a lot of these initiatives that you've got in your year-end report, I can only say that I really just applaud the capabilities of your amazing team and how they uplift and empower and embrace everyone, large and small, and everyone in between. No one falls between the cracks in your community team. Our whole community is pulled together with the work that you do. And if there's a gap somewhere, you'll find it and you'll fill it. And there's really nothing not to love about that. So yeah, thank you, and kudos to your fabulous team. Thank you.
Any further speakers? I won't exercise my right of reply, but I'll just endorse the comments made by colleagues. I'll now put the motion, 6.2, A and B. All in favour? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. We now move on to item 6.3, library update. So come forward, Paula.
The purpose of my report is to provide you all with an update on the usage and activities.
Yeah, press button.
Do you want me to start again? So yes, I'd like to provide a report. The report's a bit smaller this time. You would have noted being in lockdown has affected what we're able to do. But I'd like to draw your attention to 4.1, in particular, libraries' evolving use of social media. In July this year, after the appointment of a replacement specialist digital assistant with expertise in social media and website, and the combination of NZLPP funded social media training for 3 of the library's team and some of the comms team, a library's social media strategy was developed. Lockdown was kind of a gift in a way, as it gave opportunities for the team to test the rigours of the strategy and its potential impact. At the moment, waimakariri libraries use Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and we are giving consideration to TikTok and expanding our use of YouTube as well. Constructive, and I'll underline the word constructive, use of social media platforms does offer an expansive range of purposes to enable us libraries to reach beyond our traditional users and also beyond traditional event promotions and informative updates. Our analytics from the last 3 months, in conjunction with the draft strategy, are proving that the approach is working well. I will put a caveat in there that we do know that we were in lockdown, and we also had the phenomenal success of the library, the Down at Your Library song, to generate more traffic. But additional things outside of those few things that could have skewed data do prove that the new strategy is working. So you'll see that growth on last year is close to 380% up, with approximately 2 likes, an average of 2 likes per post per day. In the past, our Facebook posts were predominantly infomercial, advertising what we are already doing, which served quite well, and it served our traditional users quite well. Facebook gives us an opportunity to increase engagement with those beyond our traditional audience and demonstrate connections that they might not have seen with their library service. It's also giving us opportunities to grow the diversity of our audiences and amplify our messages through partner networks. Examples of that would be promotions recently, before lockdown, of our LGBTQI+ events in Qtopia in Christchurch, amplifying our messages. During lockdown, my book bag service for vulnerable people in our community was picked up by largely children of elderly parents in the district. The elderly parents weren't following us on Facebook, but they were connecting with us through our Facebook page to try and get things for their parents. Our voice, our social media voice, has been carefully honed to reflect that you would get when you come into our library. There's often been a gap between what people might experience when they come in and what they experience online, and the importance of that consistency of voice and our brand and that chattiness to ensure that people feel comfortable has been really, really worked on in conjunction with the social media training and best practice other libraries are experiencing. People have asked us
are we moving away from the traditional poster in a window or an advertisement in the local youth newspaper? And it really depends on the demographic for the event or the activity or the program that we're offering. We know that more retired people may see a post in a newspaper, but equally so they may be growing their skills and expertise in the social media area. So in those cases it's an and. But if we're looking for preschool promotion, for activities after school, most of the parents that would be bringing their children along will be in the Facebook space. So we're channeling our energy and not channeling our resources into the advertising of that print-based media. Facebook is continuing. You'll remember from last lockdown it gave us the agility to create programs from home, and this recent lockdown it did that even more with crafting clubs and puppet shows, in addition to the toddler times, baby times, nursery rhymes, all uploaded by the team on mostly their own devices at home. We're going to continue to weave in some of the back-end processes of libraries to connect the community with new books coming in. There's been some interesting Instagram posts of boxes of new books getting unpacked on video, and then people come asking to order those straight away. Facebook is also offering us opportunities to have very low cost apart from staff time, and when we're doing boosted posts we're only looking at very minimal investment. I'd like to draw your attention to 4.3, just a few points of the library service during lockdown. So at level 3 and 4 we took 270 email inquiries from the community, and that followed up with phone calls and in-depth phone calls with many people across the district who were new to our services and tech help. And my team reported that in some cases these calls were an hour and a half. Again, they were referrals from children for their parents to get connected with our e-books, to get connected with our resources, and there was a whole quite a significant social component too to those calls. The team were incredible the night we went into lockdown. That was the night we all last met, and an email was sent to them all at 6:10, and over half of the team came back in that night and took their equipment, took their computers, books they were processing, folders of work, so they were able to work from home. You'll see the figures for the first few, total number of visits for the first 3 days are roughly double. When we came back at level 2, roughly double, but we are noticing a significant drop-off of people coming into the library as case numbers are rising. And lastly, I know that Mr Mayor, you're quite interested in local history, so I'll draw your attention to 4.4. This is a NZLPP initiative, or it's an idea shared from the NZLPP initiative through one of the local history coordinators, Street Name Saturday. So it's a scheduled post on Facebook where a local street name, street sign is posted, and then followers of the library's Facebook page share their knowledge, their stories, their history. And out of the woodwork is coming a collection of stories that Sally and Beth will then curate into something that can last for a longer time on our website and hopefully a platform. So that's creating quite a lot of interest, and Sally was interviewed about that on Couples FM this morning. I'll take any questions if there are any.
Right, thank you, Paula. You didn't mention, or if you did, I missed it, somewhere in your report I think you referred to the video that your staff produced.
Yes, we were going to play it.
I thought you'd bring them along for a live performance.
I will.
Right, you're on. At the next meeting I won't be chairing it, so...
We're up to 30,000 views, just under 30,000 views.
It's gone viral. Right, are there questions?
I'd like to do something.
Yes?
I'd like to move the recommendation, but I'd like to add a new C, which the C reads, congratulates Libraries Manager Paula Iskett on being awarded a Lienza Associateship and Lienza Fellowship. Lienza for Members Information's Library and Information Association of New Zealand Aotearoa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to see you.
In addition to what Paula's already got, another outstanding team here, and that video that was produced through lockdown was fantastic, really was. But I want to focus, I got a letter sent to me just the other day advising me that Paula had been awarded this, and I wanted to recognise that, knowing this meeting was coming up, was to recognise that today. And if you could just indulge me, I'd like to read the citation. Paula's library career started at Christchurch City Libraries before a move to Ricketton High School as their library manager, initially at the school, and then as part of the Upper Ricketton School and Community Library. She has carried this passion for learning, teaching and research throughout her career as a content writer for the Open Polytech LIS courses and services to schools at the National Library who work at core education, where she was the first non-teacher to be awarded a core education e-fellowship, and to Lienza advocacy and as a mentor to colleagues throughout the profession. Paula has served on the Lienza Araki Committee, was the convener of Lienza 2017 conference, and was Lienza President 2018 to 2019. She has represented Lienza and IFLA, including the World Library and Information Congress bid, government ministers and on multiple forums. Paula is currently a Commissioner for the Library and Information Advisory Commission. Paula has been a vocal advocate for the contribution that libraries make to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. As a result of her passion, she has represented New Zealand on the topic to audiences in Australia, Canada, Portugal, Bangladesh, and across the world via Zoom, highlighting the possibilities and the achievements of New Zealand in this area. She has been heavily involved with promoting Creative Commons, receiving an LOL2 fellowship to the Institute of Open Leadership in South Africa, presenting at Creative Commons Global Summits, and as a graduate of the Creative Commons Global Certificate Program. Paula shares her knowledge and skills willingly, having published multiple research papers, being interviewed on the radio, and presenting at multiple conferences every year. Paula's continued exceptional advocacy, her warm and enthusiastic representation of Lienza and New Zealand, and her range of achievements make her a worthy recipient of a Lienza Fellowship. We are incredibly proud of you. Well done. I think the rest of the report speaks for itself, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Thank you for the indulgence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If we just park the motion up for the moment, are there any questions for Paula?
I had one, but I don't want to ruin the moment.
Paula, when were you proposing to play the video?
Oh, just now. We're going to, yeah.
Okay.
But we can't get it on Facebook, it's blocked in this room.
Oh, so we can't listen to it now?
No, it's blocked. It's still going through our Facebook page so we get the traffic. So I'll try and change that for next time.
Right, thank you, Paula. I noticed one of the things you were looking at was TikTok. I saw a documentary on TikTok the other day that there needs to be caution with its use in view of the data that's collected and how it may be used.
Absolutely.
Are other libraries using TikTok as part of the social media suite?
Yes, with caution, and the lid on the can of worms as contained as possible. So, the reference to the Creative Commons aspect of the fellowship is a huge, that awareness of what's done with people's data and how it's used is a huge part of front of mind for me on if and how we would use TikTok. But yes, definitely the privacy issues, aware of that. More us creating content for people to use than us accepting other people's content for our platform. That way we can keep it ethical, keep it contained, and keep the attributions really tight.
Right, thank you. You're the right person to keep an eye on it, I can tell. Are there any further questions for Paul?
Oh, my question was kind of in line with that. Yeah, I really like how you were, how you're tailoring the information you put out to which demographic that you're looking to reach, because that's a really good use of resources. But are you able to measure the demographics following the other platforms like Instagram, Twitter, etc.?
At the moment, I don't think we're getting a lot. We're not getting a lot of traffic through Instagram. It's very, very new. Up until very recently, it was, and it was actually it was the last libraries manager. They were doing sort of an Instagram Friday with the book cover in person. It's just starting now, so no, not a lot of data at the moment. Facebook is giving us a lot of analytics. And we've got to drill down even more there to the demographic. We are starting a bit of a segue. Part of the LPP offerings has been 6 of us are doing a year-long course on research and engagement, and we're learning how to get better metadata, how to get better data from the people who are attending our things and feedback. So that's often just a paper-based as well. Surveys in person and how did you hear about. So it's a work in progress is a short answer.
That's great, because I do know that just having a variety of different social media users in my own household, there are different demographics using the different things, kind of age from year to year. Also, I just have to say, I love your street name Saturday. I didn't even know that Woodfields Road I always thought it was a Woodfield. Honestly, I didn't know it was named after a Woodfield. So there you go. Thank you for that, and that's enough for me. That's amazing work. Thank you.
Thank you for your second question. Councillor Booth.
Well, thank you very much. Just like to comment about, I do like the idea of this history. So, would you like us to give some history bits and pieces?
Be amazing.
Like the various districts?
Sally and Beth would love that. Yeah, they've got a year long, it's a year left of the NZLPP, and they're wanting to get as much content, as much local, like as many local stories, local voice. So absolutely.
The other one I wanted to just ask you about is that how are you progressing with that digital speaking to people, getting the history? How are you getting on with that?
So there were 16 transcripts that were done quite a while ago that were temporarily misplaced and found last week. They're about to be digitised. The team are exploring platforms, and that may be a future paper at the beginning of next year around what sort of platform we would put this on. The team also working with comms as a platform that we weren't aware of. Exploring possibilities for the digitisation of the local stories, the voice recordings, the photos. So all of that's underway at the moment. We're getting heavily supported by Christchurch Libraries and their local history specialist. And some people out of the Alexander Turnbull Library too around best practice around the recording, the backing metadata and how we preserve this for potentially a future that format might not exist.
So on from there, the museums.
So they have met with each of the Kaipoi, Oxford and Rangiora, had in-person meetings in Rangiora Library and out there as well. We're doing Sally and Beth and I at the moment are doing some work on Creative Commons on how we can support the museums to retain the copyright of the information they have by making it accessible to others and again referring back to that study to bring the best practice in so they're served, the community is served and the information is made accessible without compromising the intellectual, without compromising the copyright owners' rights.
Councillor Bond.
Thank you. I think the answer probably yes, but in the early 2000s, we paid for a video on Waimakariri. It was narrated by the late Keith Hales. Have you guys seen?
I have to check on that.
And Also, the council part-funded a series of booklets called Heritage Trails.
I can check on that too. And
I've still got the video somewhere if you can't find it, but I don't know about Heritage Trails.
that's great. I'll follow up and get back to you.
Right, no further questions. So we have a motion on the table, moved by the Mayor and seconded by myself. Any further discussion on the motion? Right, I'd just like to say I think it's a very good motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for bringing that to our attention. So the motion is 6.3 A, B, C and D. The new C replaces the C that was in the agenda. Do you wish to exercise your right to reply, Mr. Mayor? Right, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, Paula, and congratulations on your achievement.
Thank you very much.
Right, we'll move on to item 6.4. Botics October update. And we'll speak to that. Matt?
I'm not sure who I have to bribe to get my position changed in the agenda, but there's some very, very big shoes to fill after those two.
Yes.
So I'll try to make Paul's as sexy as I can.
You've got a hard act to follow.
I do. Thank you.
Nice tie.
So the purpose of this report is to update the Community and Recreation Committee on the operation and goings on in the aquatic facilities. I'll take the report as read, but will draw your attention to a couple of the points. 4.1 and 6.1, firstly, being the attendance and the financial impacts. Obviously, with COVID, the recent lockdowns and then the ongoing restrictions, we've seen quite a few impacts, especially over our leisure swim lines of income and income and ticket sales. As with previous restrictions, we're seeing both customers who are getting a little bit snappier as restrictions go on, and also customers who really appreciate the effort that the team are going to ensure that they're kept safe, but that we're able to continue to operate within the guidelines and keeping customers and staff safe at these times. So it's both a bit of a balancing act. In 4.3 we have the staffing update. This part of the report highlights our ongoing concerns around staffing within both the facilities and the industry in general. We've been taking steps and we're currently in the process of recruiting a number of low-level positions. However, the shortage of high-level, senior-level staff continues to be a concern for the wider industry. As we've discussed previously, Christchurch are only continuing to open more facilities and they'll all need staff and that. So we're working within the industry and with our ITO to try and address this and fill those gaps. In 4.4 highlights our response to the recent level 4 and level 3 restrictions and our ongoing steps that we're taking to keep customers safe. As I said, there's a mixed response from the community, a bit of wariness as well as a lot of understanding. Most recently, we changed our approach that we were taking to mask wearing. The initial guidance implied that masks had to be worn at all times on poolside. Updated wording on the website implied that it was to be supported but not mandatory in a poolside environment, which is understandably in a warm, damp environment. So we worked with some customers and updated that process. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Right, thank you, Matt. Any questions? Councillor Luther?
Thanks, Matt. It has been difficult for you and your staff over the period of lockdown and so. And I'm just wondering just how are your staff faring? Are they faring okay or?
I think the well-being of the entire community is being impacted, and so people are doing as well as can be. The current COVID restrictions allow us to actually manage the customers. One of the aspects where we differ from Christchurch is a lot of our customers prefer a quiet time, and so our current process is we're booking customers in for lane space, and they would love to see that continue. It's been a winner, so that it allows us to manage the time they come, and that's working really well for us and for staff and the community, and allows us to smooth those peaks, to steal a phrase from Ashley Longford.
The other question I'd just like to ask, have you, trying to get people interested in joining your facility, have you thought about going to the high schools and actually speaking with them, or have you done that?
I spoke with Emily.
That.
What was that? Elton, thank you, just recently, and got those advertised out, as well as one of the ladies in HR has some connections with Oxford, so we got that one circulated through the school as well. So yeah, that's done.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you.
brilliant ideas, thanks.
Councillor Barney?
Just speaking of high schools, I've had opposite feedback from obviously teenagers who are finding it very restrictive under the COVID environment. I just wondered, is there any opportunity to book the leisure pool for more activity than what is currently being offered?
It's a very fine balance, and one that within the industry no one's finding a silver bullet for. So I believe Christchurch are doing, you book the whole pool and you must distance, but it's very select numbers. The approach we've taken is splitting the pool up into different spaces. I fully appreciate that just won't work for some people. It's a really fine edge to try and find something that works for the majority in these times. So yeah, I definitely take your point that it's not satisfying everyone. We're continuing we talk weekly within the industry about what are you trying, what have you tried, did this work, did this not. So yeah, at this point we've got no real silver bullet to fix this issue, yeah, unfortunately.
Right, no further questions. I'll move to 6.5 A to C. Is there a second? Councillor Dooley. Just like to thank you for your report, Matt, in trying times, swimming at level 2. I wondered if you may have come up with waterproof masks or something, but could be an avenue there to investigate. Right, Councillor Dooley.
Thanks very much for your report. Appreciate it. And I think perhaps I need to shift you around up to the first one. It's protocol. Well, you should be changing, you should be alternating it.
Councillor Barney.
Yes, thanks, Matt. Just to redirect my comments, weren't in any way reflecting on the pool at all. I just find it absolutely ridiculous that 1,800 students go to Rangiora High School every day with no masks and travel around classrooms, and yet we can't have a group of teenagers in the leisure pool at a particular time or anything like that because of the fact that the COVID regulations are just so scrambled. And these young people are missing out. They're missing out on leisure and recreational opportunities. I fully appreciate you've done everything to manage the rules, but the rules are ridiculous. And if we're going to continue to allow schools to mingle in this way, teenagers should also have the opportunity to recreate in this way as well. I appreciate the lane issue, but if that's the case, we need to dedicate a lane to our teams and have a bring your own high school out, and a Kite high school out, and a homeschool out, and maybe that will work.
Thank you. Councillor Barney, I'm sympathetic to the point you make. I think the rules are a bit of a mess. Ideally, we should be in level 1 at the moment, you could argue, which would make your life a lot easier, Matt. And no doubt librarians. Right, any further discussion? There being none, I won't exercise my right of reply. I'll put the motion. 6.5 A to C, all in favour? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Matt. Under item 7, I have no correspondence. The Mayor has presented his correspondence. Item 8, portfolio updates. Sorry. Sorry.
Green space.
I take the wrong one.
He's 6.5.
You're 6.5.
Sure you're speaking the right motion?
Yes. My last motion, 14, referred to 6.4. I'm sure you picked that up. Yeah, I picked too soon and thought we were moving on too quickly.
It was actually A to D and 2 at 6.
Nice try, Chair. You've still got to hear from me.
A to D and 6.4. If you would just correct that, Courtney. So we'll move on to 6.5. Yes, I was too hasty. Welcome, Grant.
Thank you. I'd just like to say it's I'm all right with the order. It's actually really nice because they put you in a great step before I turn up. And it's to be fair, I think just reflecting on what my colleagues have kind of done over the last year with what they've done for schools and libraries, and also community support development as well. It's actually really nice to kind of work within a team, the team that Chris has pulled together. So it's really nice for us to sit at the back and kind of hear all of those warm comments. I think it's actually really nice. I see the work that they do, and it's great to actually see them acknowledged, especially at this table. So thank you.
I should also acknowledge you're accompanied by Ryan.
Yeah,
Welcome.
Although he's socially distanced himself.
Yes, there's an appropriate distance from you.
Come closer on.
Right, would you like to speak to your report?
Yes, I would love to. Now that I'm back on the agenda. Good day, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. So this report's really to kind of highlight to community and recreation the work plan that Greenspace is doing post, what was a relatively ambitious LTP in terms of the work plan that we've set ourselves. Kind of just giving a bit of an update as to where some of the projects are at. What we'd quite like to do, and one of the things that Ryan's actually leading on behalf of community and recreation, because you'll note there's some projects in here from Matt's team as well, is really kind of make sure that we're keeping the lines of communication open with you as the elected members and the elected committee around community and recreation, but also making sure that we're going out to the boards and just kind of keeping them up to date with what we're doing around our capital program and our plan. Something that Chris has identified with us and others have as well, is that sometimes we're not really given the visibility that people might want around some of the projects that we're doing, or they might not hear for a while around some of the things that we've kind of been seeing they do. You're in touch with your community quite regular, and they're probably wanting to know where some of these things are at. So we kind of wanted to run through that, let you know where we're at, some of the challenges that we're sort of facing just in terms of trying to do the delivery around these, and also just to kind of field any questions or anything that you want to kind of add into this, knowing that this is kind of a new thing for us that we're doing. So I wanted to make sure early on that you're involved in the discussion piece around that. So look, I'll take the report as read, but if you are all right through the chair, I might run through the table just to update, and myself and Ryan are here to kind of just answer any questions that you might have. Is that suitable for you?
Yes, carry on, Grant.
Cool. So you'll see there that what we've done is actually kind of listed things out according to the community outcome that they sit under. We've put a variety of boxes in there, and we're kind of developing this as we go. So a little bit of what we want to hear today is, without turning it into a full-blown workshop, is just kind of making sure that these are the sorts of headings that you think would be valuable to be updated on. Really wanting to try and give you a bit of a heads up as to where some of these projects are at, and maybe if there's anything there that you're surprised might not be within this. The one thing that I would say with this is that a lot of that's the project work that we're doing. A lot of other things we kind of see as business as usual. That hasn't necessarily made it into the report. So this isn't technically everything we're doing, but it's just some of the highlights that we wanted to make sure that you're aware of in terms of what the unit's working on. So you can see there's the community facilities asset management. So that's something that Andy Coker and his team have picked up. Post Simon Kong being here, Ryan's kind of put the link in the glue there, so he's working with them on that. You'll note in the LTP we have general landscaping budgets report, so that report is still pending. So we've got some work to do from the LTP around that, so we're envisaging that that's going to be back with the boards and community and recreation probably around about March next year. The ice sports building, you'll note that Chris had already submitted a report on that, so that's to the last council meeting. Sports facility satisfaction survey, that's an annual thing that we're doing. And that's really just making sure that we're asking the right questions out to our sports users and kind of linking in with them. The Sefton Community Hall project, myself and Andy are working on that at the moment. They've got a meeting tomorrow night. We've sent them a letter of intent in terms of what it is that we're going to be doing as a council moving forward and kind of through the process of that. Custom Community Centre, they had a meeting on Monday night, last night, which Andy led, so I believe Councillor Barnett and Amir were both in attendance there. So that's all on track unless I hear otherwise. Good.
He's doing a great job.
Excellent, good to know. Well done, Andy. He's missing his tie, but he's doing all right. It's hard to train people these days. We stopped with reserve as well, so we've got some government money to help us with that, so that's been brought forward in the program. That's actually intended. One that might not be as visible with you that I wanted to put in here was actually the Cricket World Cup warm-up matches and some of the marketing that's going on here. We're actually attending monthly meetings around that. One of the really exciting points of that is that we've actually got a couple of warm-up games occurring here. Peter Devlin is pretty excited about that, so they're doing some work down at Main Power Oval, but it's really good for us. We've got the highest ranked team in the world, the Indian women's cricket team. We're going to be playing 2 matches here. We know that South Africa's coming. We're hopefully going to find out who the other qualifier is shortly. So there's some things that we're doing there with them around promotions that Christchurch NZ might be able to bring out our way. And I've got another meeting with them this Thursday as well, so they're trying to make sure that there's some visibility and actually some effort going into our areas and not just Christchurch as well. There'll be a report coming around the regeneration land requests, and that's really around, there's been quite a few neighbours have started to put their hands up to actually buy back some of the regeneration area. So there'll be a report coming on that, just kind of outlining some of the options there and some of the issues and concerns that we might have. Town entrances, strategy and budget implementation plan, that's ongoing, another thing from the LTP. Southbrook feasibility, we're expecting to have that report back by the end of this week, which will be really good because we can then present that next CNR meeting. The land purchase for Pegasus and Ravenswood, there's not really a lot that I can update on that at this point in time. It continues to be an ongoing conversation and discussion. We're still working towards having a willing seller. Dixon's Road Cemetery has been resource consented, so there's just some liaison work there through the district plan and also with some of the landowners through that area as well. The Pines Beach splash pad, we've actually got a consultant engaged to work on that. That's a request that come forward through the LTP. So that's...
Can I interrupt? Your question as you go, Graham?
Yeah,
what,
otherwise you're just going to hear from me.
Why do we need a consultant to build a splash pad? Is there no, what expertise are they bringing that you guys haven't got?
Yeah, so they're not, it's not necessarily that they're building it, it's just with the amount of work that we've got on, we can't do it within the time frame that's been set. So in essence what the consultant's doing is pushing that on through the community consultation process. Yeah. It's not necessarily about design, it's about whether or not we're going to do it. Yeah. And answering some of those questions that came through from the LTP. But as I said, it's quite an ambitious work plan, so with some, unfortunately with some longer term vacancies that we haven't been able to fill, we're kind of having to look around at how we to still get things for the community. So Kaiapoi Playground provision, so that's been reported back up through to KTCB, the Kaiapoi Tuahiwi Community Board, and that's on track at this point in time, but we do believe that it's going to be at risk heading forward, especially with some of the feedback that we're getting around acquiring equipment. What we're noticing is anytime there's a playground project, whether it's ourselves or Christchurch or Selwyn, it's taking months for equipment to get here, even components that are built within New Zealand. The lockdown in Auckland hasn't helped, and that's where a lot of things are actually emanating from, as well as the fact we still order the majority of our playground equipment comes from overseas, and that's just because the New Zealand market doesn't build it all. So that is a genuine risk that we've got, and one that we're slightly concerned about. So long as we've got the replacement components here, that'll be okay for our current stock. But going forward for new playgrounds, that is a slight concern. You see there's a static monitoring project there. That's ongoing at this point in time. Gladstone Dog Park entrance will be a workshop at the next Oxford Hoka board. We've had a new entrant into the work plan, an exciting one around the Waikuku master plan. And that's just because we've got a number of projects there that all tie together in a limited amount of space in which to deliver them all. So we've got to set some expectations with the board and also with the community there about what we can do and kind of have some of that community engagement. The Rifle Club, that's definitely one that at this point in time is at risk. We're trying to work on that through the work that we're doing with Cust in the community centre, but the issue remains it's not as easy for us to just set them up somewhere. Some of the regulations that they've got and the fact that they're still wanting to use lead bullets is not easy for us to resolve. As Matt had said, there's no silver bullet around that. But the big thing is that we could probably resolve the issue if we had a different kind of material that they could shoot. But the lead is the biggest issue. There's going to be a lot of conversations around that, a lot of negotiation with the club on where we get to for that.
Sorry, I wasn't going to actually ask. I'm just wondering if perhaps it may be worthwhile you speaking to the Oxford A&P Association.
That's a great lead. We can certainly do that as part of that project as well, because we're looking wherever we can get them. The reality is we don't have a purpose building, but they can't stay where they currently are. Security camera network plan, so that's currently under construction. It's under authorship. And we're having meetings with Community Watch, the police, and also some of the providers around that. The Natural Environment Strategy Action Plan, that's currently being authored through Veronica Spittle and the policy team. Aroha Te Awa, that's ongoing work, although we are currently trying to get a project manager in place for that. And also you'll note.
Sorry, Karen. I was just going to mention that's where your list stops.
And diligent that we have.
And diligent that we have, the diligent we're looking at, that's where the list stops. Yeah. But I've just emailed everyone the report, which is actually the report which is in our trim document, and the list continues. So I needed to stop you and catch and keep talking, because people wouldn't be looking at the same documentation.
Yeah. Just a question before we go to that.
Right, Councillor Evans.
Sorry for you, Chris. Just going back to the regeneration land request. So can you just clarify what is it that people, you say that private landowners are wanting to purchase regeneration land for what purpose? Can you just elaborate a little bit?
To have a bigger section.
Adjoining land right next to their property.
So they want land that's right next to their house. There's a number of requests that have come through for it. It's mostly in relation to just having a bigger backyard.
And I've just got one more question as well before we look over this new one. When you're looking at the main power oval, what are you doing about working with North Canterbury's Cricket about upgrading their changing facilities?
Thank you, Wendy. That's actually a really good question. So Peter Devlin has gone and acquired funding through the national funding round that they had for hosting the Women's Cricket World nicer, so we're going to go and have a look through those sometime over the next couple of weeks. Peter went to great pains to make sure that Jez from Canterbury Cricket was well aware of the fact that they got $600,000 and what Peter has managed to achieve with only $45,000. So, yeah, he was just making clear that, you know, we've got warm-up matches as well as Selwyn, and as well as other areas, and the level of funding hasn't quite been equitable. So, but what they've done has been fantastic.
So when are you going to have the opportunity to go and have a look at it? Because I'd love to go down there as well.
We'll definitely do that. I'll be speaking to Peter after a meeting tomorrow, so I'll mention that that'll be a really good thing for us to do.
Just on that, when we went to the launch of the cricket season, it was really strongly acknowledged the partnership with our council and the fact that they value the relationship with Grant and his team. The President mentioned it several times in his comments, and then further followed up by Peter, just how valued that is and how appreciative they are, because we are seen as one of the leading councils in that space for the support that we give to our local cricket association and with the Oval. So it's very nice to hear, Chris. I know you were there as well, but certainly very nice to hear within our peers that the support that we give, and Kirradilly and others were certainly mentioned that they may similarly like to consider a contribution. So it was good to hear, so thank you to you and the team for the work.
Thank you.
If you'd like to carry on with your list, and if colleagues want to actually have it in front of them, if you click into Chris's email.
It's not intelligent.
No,
just go back to your email.
It's got a Word document in it, and the Word document's got the rest of the list. Apologies about that. I have no idea why it's disappeared, but
sorry about that.
Might be my fault. I might have been meddling in the report.
So the Coopers Creek toilet, actually Chris met with Doc yesterday, so I don't know if you wanted to say anything around that one, Chris.
They were really collaborative actually. They are wanting to undertake the consultation with the community in partnership with us, put their logo on it and undertake it with some staff support. They have said that they don't have any funding at the moment, similar to us not having any funding. However, if it was a partnership approach where there was funding by us as a local authority, then they would be able to potentially get some funding from the Department of Conservation, at least in the next sort of 8 months to a year. And I said that was probably more aligned to our annual plan, and we could bring something to our annual plan. So we're going to do a concept plan with the community, some consultation, bring that back to the annual plan with some costings. We both agreed that less is probably more in that location, so we're not expecting it to be that expensive. But great to see Doc open to really good collaboration on a joint project.
Excellent. Really exciting.
The next one that you'll see on the Word list there is the pest control report, so we're actually going to wrap that up into the natural environment strategy / action plan, so that'll be reported on as part of that project. Unfortunately, the ecological grants process has suffered somewhat with a long-term staff absentee. It's not work that I've been able to pass on to anybody in the rest of the team, but we're currently working to address that either with a fixed term position or actually working on the return to work program with the staff member in question. Has been delayed a little bit, so we're hoping that we can get that rectified and back up and running. At the moment, that has been supported by Gina Maxwell and the policy team anyway, so that's been really good to have her available to us there. The Bulls Road Suspension Bridge, again, that's one that we've got a consultant working on, and again, that's just really around community engagement. So that's an engagement project. The Ringera Town Hall setting, we've actually got a briefing once I wrap up. The Ringera Town Hall HVAC, that's actually completed and is running well. No. Yeah, so it's operating really well. Thanks, Rob. The Kaiapoi Community Hub, so there was an update last night to the Kaiapoi Tuahiwi Community Board, just outlining the fact that we're going to be doing some consultation through the resource consent from this point on. And last but not least, the effort master plan has been out for tender so that we could get a specialist on board to help us with that one. We've had one person come forward thus far, so we're currently doing some work with them around the kind of service that they might actually be able to provide to us. Unfortunately, as we're seeing with a lot of things, the market hasn't really responded the way that we were hoping, and we didn't get the, range or numbers of companies interested that we were hoping. We did chase up a few people post that, but we haven't quite managed to entice anybody else to put forward or put their hand up yet. So look, thank you for allowing me to kind of run through that with you. I guess we just wanted to make sure that you're aware of what it is or where some of these projects were at. There's a number that aren't necessarily on there, but it's just purely because we kind of see them as business as usual. A couple that you might be wondering where they are is the Smoke Creek Public Places. Again, that's actually being done through the policy team, so they're supporting us with that one. The work that Mike's also doing on Northern Pegasus Bay Bylaw Review, that's also running in partnership with him and also with the policy team as well. So yeah, look, I'll take the report as read and as read out, and happy to take any further questions that you might have.
Thank you, Grant. Could I just ask you, some of the work is at risk because of the lack of staff resources. What is the position in your department at the moment? You've got a number of vacancies, have you?
I don't think it's necessarily just an issue for community and recreation. I think it's an issue not just for our local authority either, it's an issue nationally in a lot of different professions where we are finding where we have staff leaving positions. It's difficult to fill at the moment. The time period it's taking to fill them is quite long, and it's really difficult to actually find the people to fill those positions as well. So a lot of it is due to positions not being filled, and there are some vacancies, 2 vacancies at the moment, and a 3rd vacancy coming up with Kevin Dwyer resigning as well. So we had Michelle Flanagan leave, and that put a really big hole in the team with the amount of work that she could actually do. We've been out to the market for that position, couldn't find anyone suitable. We've gone out to the market again for that, and it's currently open at the moment. We have a community facilities role that's about to go to market, and we have Kate Steele who's currently not there. So that's sort of 3 positions within a relatively small team, and that has a massive impact on our ability to be able to actually do the work. In addition to that, we do use consultants and when I say consultants, that sometimes just means PDU. But PDU are not in a wonderful position either at the moment with the availability of engineers to be able to actually complete a lot of work at the moment. They're really struggling with other consultancies taking staff, Three Waters, etc., etc. So that has flow-on effects for us in the delivery of some of our projects as well. You can be assured that Grant's doing everything he can to think outside the box, and we've been able to secure a really good consultant, Tara, who some of you met at KTCB meeting last night. She's an expert in doing consultation, so being able to have someone that can sit in the office and just get that consultation with the community done means we'll be in a better position to deliver some of those projects. Grant's also working closely with our HR team to try and fill the vacancies which are there at the moment. So it's not through lack of money in the budget. It's a lack of being able to get good staff in the positions and unfortunately some sickness as well.
Well, Matt referred to that as well previously, so it's across the board.
Yeah, and libraries are feeling the same pinch as well in that space as well with some resignations and staff stepping sideways and the ability, time it takes to fill those as well. So, and it's not just our local authority, it's across the board, but we're doing everything we possibly can. and the staff are really stepping up in a lot of areas to take on extra work, and hopefully we can fill those vacancies and do what we need to do so they don't have to keep doing that.
Thank you. Any other questions for Grant or Ryan? Right. Seconder? Really good. Councillor Bryan.
So, yeah, just very briefly, Mr. Chair, you can see there's a very comprehensive list of items that are on track or at risk. Obviously, we want to achieve as many as we possibly can. Grant and Chris have clearly outlined some of these involved with that. But that's council, and things are probably slightly more difficult at the moment than I've ever known them. However, we will get there in the end, and it's just a matter of being patient and not creating too much expectation in some of those communities, such as Waikaku Beach. Because once you say yes, that's a really good idea at council level, all of a sudden there's an expectation that you're going to be delivering it yesterday. So, but I'm sure the team can manage set expectations. And bearing in mind, I'm just checking over 15 hours since I started work this morning. I'm slightly disappointed to hear the cricket hadn't opened. After, I just can't believe I've never been invited. I just didn't know anything about it. So I'm going to put that publicly on the record that I'm disappointed with Canterbury cricket to not send at least the green space portfolio on
I'm still in the dark. What are you referring to, Ronnie?
cricket opening. The mayor mentioned that he and Chris went to the cricket opening at Napier.
Well, I just on that I received an invite to go to the opening. In the future, if I know you'd like to go, Robbie, if you'd accompany me. I went to this opening in the year before, so I wasn't aware. I don't obviously handle their invites, but if you'd like to go, I'm happy to make sure you're included in our list. I don't think Peter and that would mind in the future. But there's only one representative from each of there's one from Selwyn, which was representing the Mayor and Mayor Murray. That was all. There wasn't other councillors included in those invites. It was a very small group, and I think especially so this year because of COVID. But I'll take note of that for next year.
Thank you. Any further questions? Right, well, we have a mover and seconder. Do you want to write a reply, Robin?
No, thank you.
Actually, did you want to speak, Councillor Doyle?
It's okay.
I may have missed you out.
I can try.
Great efficiency.
But I really appreciate this full recommend, full report. It's great. I really appreciate that. It's keeping us up to date with everything.
Yes, it looks like a fairly ambitious program, so good luck to you all, and hopefully you can find the resourcing that you require to deliver it. And we understand the position you're in. You didn't wish to exercise the right of reply? Right, I'll put the motion. 6.5 A to C. All in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. We have no correspondence. Item 8, portfolio updates. First up is Councillor Bryan.
Green space operations, the remedial work at Ashley Gorge following the recent storm has nearly been completed. Picnic tables have been replaced along the playground items. Grass has now been sown. Capital Cemetery works in progress with new burial urns planned at Rangiora Colony in Oxford. A timber fence in Janelle Place has been stained to prolong the asset life and improve the reserve appearance. Remote cameras being installed at Pearson Oval, Oxford, to help reduce potential damage to the toilet block and community garden, and other cameras planned for Morgan Williams Reserve and Kaiwai. Biodiversity, Ashley Gorge, topsoiling, level and hydro seeding completed. Temporary fencing done to prevent risk of vehicles driving over new grass once public vehicle access to reserve reopens. Ashley Wakahuri Estuary Car Park stop banking and Canna completing works this week with soiling, hydro seeding and replacing fencing. PTP Rangers funding round 4 now underway. Proc stock jobs for nature funds of approximately 90k. Rangers will also undertake a project in maintenance ops in natural areas and biodiversity areas, including Aotearoa, with Rangers have been planting 1,600 seedlings of 2,000 additional planting following the initial community planting of 2019. Silverstream Village riparian planting, Rangers assisted planting over 500 seedlings with local residents and Silverstream Reserve volunteers. This is a joint project with ECAN. Silverstream Reserve plant approximately 5,000 seedlings this season involving community plantings with a number of groups. On the forest, 1,100 seedlings planted as infield community planting groups, 600 seedlings planted in new areas and site maintenance ops. Kaipua River riparian plantings and weed control undertaken for Three Waters ECAN funded. Taranaki Reserve, 280 seedlings planted and maintained. Egan Reserve, school plantings maintained. On the Forest Community Planting Day was held the 18th of September, planting approximately 600 seedlings. Capital Project, West Oxford Toilet Project is underway following funding received as part of the Tourism Infrastructure Fund. This has all been put out to tender and staff are now evaluating the submissions. Ashkeeton Reserve staff are currently investigating options to resolve the drainage issues in the car park, with a report to be taken to the Kaipui community. Reserve Roads and Car Park Renewals is currently out for tender and is programmed to be completed over the spring-summer months. Milton Reserve staff have received a price to complete the work on the trees identified as part of the master plan. This work will be completed in the coming weeks. Thank you very much, Alan and Grant, for forwarding.
Thank you, Robbie. Any questions?
Good luck with the drainage at Ashkeeton.
Yes.
Works very well at low tide.
Fighting rising tide. Right, moving on. Councillor Doody, linking facilities
I'll just do
and other things.
Robbie's already said some of the things. I did meet up with the Oxford A&P Association just this week regarding the district plan, but we also brought up other matters which I will have a talk to you, Chris, about. One was the land that's used for rugby and the concern about the lack of mine and things like that. So I just need to, I know what you've said, and I just need to go over that. Because council does give them funding towards that if they don't feel that is sufficient. The Oxford Arts Gallery, Chris and I are going to meet up with the Arts Gallery tomorrow. They just wanted to do some beautification, and they're going to be gifted a piece of art, a sculpture by the late Lou Summers. So he used to live in Oxford. So the family want them to have this.
Not the one that was at the library at that time that got all sorted out for controversy.
Well, I'm not too sure.
People were covering all sorts of things with it.
Don't know. But anyway, so that's something that Chris and I need to have a talk to them about, because it means quite a bit of work done there, and possibly a car park disappearing. So, and I'd just like to say thank you to the staff very much for, which Robert already discussed it there, the recent storm, in particular Pearson Park, where I think they were sequoias, were they? Were they sequoias? What were they? Were they sequoias? Were they sequoias? What were they? Don't know.
Big trees.
Big trees. They were big tree, but two of them fell down and they just narrowly missed all the playground equipment. So, but honestly, that those trees were tidied up, gone, the ground's flattened, and you wouldn't even know that they were, apart from a bit of soil there, you wouldn't even know that they'd been there. So just like to say thank you very much to whoever who did that. I really appreciate it. It was very quick. We've been to some property acquisition and disposal meetings, and we've also had some housing, social and affordable workshops. West Oxford Reserve, I'm really thrilled about that. The toilet's going to happen there. The Oxford, Keep Oxford Beautiful, the community committee there, do a lot of work around there, and they were very disappointed that it had people come in that thought that the plantings that they've done were far better at their house. So, they really work hard, and I know that work goes in there, they're working even harder. The Oxford A&P committee discussed about they were asking about the rifle club, and I said about that it's not going to happen now, and so they may be interested in having the staff and talk with them about locating it on their ground. They are having problems with the locals that seem to think that their private land is an extension of the reserve, and they're having a great deal of difficulty with people with dogs walking, so that they'll be ultra pleased when this dog park can start, so they can get them off their private land. What else? And really, and the other stuff that Robbie has talked about. So it's been a really busy time, and unfortunately with COVID, and we've not been able to meet the same. I've just found it really difficult trying to catch up my portfolio. Chris and I do talk once a fortnight sometimes if we can, when we meet up, which helps me to keep up to date on this one, but it's really just at the moment, I just want to get back into meeting with the staff again, because it's something that I'm badly falling short on, and I apologise for that.
Right, thank you, Councillor Doogan. Any questions of Wendy? 8.4, Arts and Culture, Councillor Blackie.
Thank you. A few things. Our Waimak Public Arts Trust is up and running. Our signature event was putting the Blackpool's 150th anniversary Andrew Drummond sculpture on the riverbank, which you've all seen, and some of you were there. Gone ahead, and we're very pleased with that, and it's spinning happily in the inevitable easterly. I don't think it's stopped since they put it in, actually, or the nor'west, or the southerly.
I was going to say nor'west.
As Jackie said in her speech, that it's a pity we didn't wire it up to a grid, and we could have fed power to all the boats on the pontoon. But I'll run that past Grant later. The pose at the entrance to Pegasus, they've been passed over to Waipat in a moral sense for us to look after too. And as you all know, we've allocated funding for their repair and maintenance at the moment, and Waipat will take them over and open discussions down the lines for the future maintenance. Kaipoi Expo have very generously donated a large sum of their profit money this year to Waipat to put another sculpture somewhere in Kaipoi, probably on the riverbank, and we're working on where that can be spent at the moment with relevant artists. We've also been donated by Chris Marshall in Ahoka a metal sculpture called The Gathering, which he was disposing of, and it is currently gracing my barn at the moment while I frantically pour CRC into it to try and get it. It's got a spinner on it in the wind too, which doesn't spin because it's seized, but we're working on that, and then we'll find a place to put that somewhere in the district. We haven't made any plans with that. The Tangata sign in Kaipoi in the walk through on William Street, you know, the rusty Corton steel one with the carvings in it, that's been moved out of there, and again that'll probably go on the riverbank. Waipat have been tasked to find a place to put that, and that's very simple because it's got 3 steel poles that just drive into the ground. You don't even need concrete or anything to put it, so we're working on that. That's pretty much it. Brian, you'll have seen Brian and Judith working today, getting all the artwork back up in this building, and this room to follow, and the corridor, and that's about me.
Right, thank you, Al.
Chair.
Yes.
We should actually acknowledge, Councillor Blackie, the sculpture Cara that went up, if it wasn't for Al identifying that and working through his son James, who negotiated
It's who you know.
Thank you, Al. Any other questions about it?
Oh, no.
No.
You're not involved with the gallery, are you? With all the paintings and such like? Are you involved with it?
Well, yes or no.
Oh, okay. No, that's not.
Directly, no. But I mean, it comes under the art umbrella.
Right.
What were you?
Oh, no, it was just that I wanted to have a talk with one of the members, and he's going to be acquiring a piece of art that will be placed in Oxford. That was painted by a resident many moons ago. They used to live in Oxford many moons ago, very, very high quality piece of artwork that the family want to give to Oxford.
Indoor.
Indoor.
Yeah. So you're talking about art collection stuff. Yeah, I'll talk to you later about that. Yeah.
Right, thank you very much, Councillor Blackie. I have no questions, no urgent general business, so I'll declare the meeting closed. And thank you for your attendance. We do have a briefing.